Scalars and vector quantities. Do you know about the scalar and vector quantities? What is the difference between both of these? So just remember that scalar quantities are those quantities that have magnitude as well as unit. If I suppose mass, the mass of any brick is 2 kg. This mass is a scalar quantity or vector quantity? Mass is a scalar quantity because here you can see 2. 2 is a numerical value which is basically the magnitude and kilogram. Kilogram is the unit. So the scalar quantity have only magnitude and unit. That's why the mass is a scalar quantity. But the vector quantities are those quantities that have magnitude, unit as well as direction. These are basically called as vector quantities. The difference between the scalars and vectors is basically a single factor which is our direction. The vectors have direction but the scalars do not have any direction. Scalars have only magnitude and the unit, but the vectors have magnitude, unit as well as direction. So if I suppose that there is a car which is moving at 2 meters per second towards north. Here 2 is numerical value which is basically the magnitude, meter per second is the unit for the velocity and north is the direction. So 2 meters per second north is basically a vector quantity because it's the measurement of the velocity. So I can simply say that the velocity is a vector quantity because here it is specified that the car is moving towards the north at 2 meters per second. Can you give me another example for the scalar and vector quantity? What do you think about the time? Time is scalar or vector? And what do you think about the acceleration? Either it's a scalar or vector. So here there are some examples of the scalar and vector quantities. For example, mass. Mass is a scalar quantity, and why it's a scalar quantity? Suppose that a bag containing 5 kg of sugar, here 5 kg, it is basically the mass. 5 is magnitude, while kilogram is the unit. So the quantities that have magnitude and unit, these are called as scalar. That's why here mass is a scalar quantity. And vector quantity, here is given displacement. Displacement is a vector quantity. Why it's a vector quantity? Because it has direction. Let's say displacement is 50 kg south. So it's given here 50 kg south. Here 50 is magnitude, kilogram is unit and south is our direction. This direction is basically very important in order to differentiate between the scalar and vector quantities. That's why the displacement is a vector quantity while the mass is a scalar quantity. There are some scalars and vector quantities. For example, distance. Distance is a scalar quantity because it has only magnitude and the unit, while displacement is a vector quantity because it involves the direction. Let's say I suppose that the car is moving and it covers 20 km towards north. Here 20 km is basically the magnitude and unit, while north is direction. That's why displacement is a vector quantity. Scalar quantities are mass, speed, time, temperature, energy and work. All of these are scalar quantities because they have only magnitude and unit, while the vector quantities are momentum, velocity, acceleration, electric field strength, weight and force. All of these are vector quantities because they include the direction. They have magnitude, unit as well as direction. So direction is basically the important factor in order to differentiate between both of these quantities. You may be unfamiliar with the sum of these quantities that are mentioned here, but don't worry, you will discuss it in next lessons. Here is exam tips. Make sure that you understand correctly the difference between the scalars and vector. You need to understand the correctly difference between the scalars and the vectors. Some confusing quantities are distance and displacement. So you may think that the distance and displacement, both of these are the same things, but how one is scalar and the other is vector? It is because of the reason when you are going to measure the distance, you can simply say that the distance is 2 meters. But when you measure the displacement, you can say that the displacement is 2 meters right. Here rightward is basically the direction of the displacement, while 2 meters is magnitude and unit. That's why distance is a scalar quantity, while displacement is a vector quantity. After that, there is speed and velocity. Both of these are again the same thing, but speed is a scalar because it has only magnitude and unit. But the velocity is a vector quantity because it has magnitude, unit and direction. So you don't need to confuse between these quantities. Either these are scalars or vector. So there are some questions for you. Question number 1, which is the value of the vector quantity. So you have to tell that which one of the following is a vector quantity. A, 200 volt, B, 100 kilogram per meter cube, C, 20 meter per second east, D, 50 joule per kilogram per degree C. So which one of the following is a vector quantity? You have to tell me. Just remember the difference between the scalar and vector quantities in order to solve these questions. Question number 2. Which one of the following is not a vector quantity? Means that which is a scalar quantity? Option A, 200 meter west, B, 100 kilometer, C, 20 meter per second west, D, 2 meter upwards. So which one of the following is the scalar quantity?